Dear brothers and sisters, we have today a small but very committed group and a very interesting and challenging presentation. Our guest is Dr. Christopher Otworowski. He is a professor at the Redeemer Pacific College, and he is a young man, but he was teaching in almost all Catholic universities in Canada, starting from the McGill to the Concordia and the Human Theological College. I couldn't count how many universities he was teaching until now. So I will give him now the word, and please come, Professor Otworowski, and the great moment is come for us.
I remember a professor of my daughter's at McGill who, when she was a little stressed with her studies, told her that, remember, it's all about having fun. And so I hope that tonight we can have a little fun. I wanted to say, first of all, that I'm extremely grateful for being here among you. This is a little bit my coming out party in the West Coast. It's my first public talk here. I've only come since September. I'm very happy to be here. I come as a representative also of Redeemer Pacific College, where I'm very happy to work. I'm also especially happy to be here because I understand that the lay Dominicans are the main driving force of the Catholic Forum. And I have a special fondness for Dominicans. I did my initial doctoral work, and my first book was on Marie-Dominique Chenu, who was a French Dominican, very well known for reviving historical study of St. Thomas Aquinas, and a great fan of the mixed life. And I learned a lot about that from him. So for that reason especially also, I'm very happy to be here. I want to talk about saints and about the universal call to holiness. And I want to talk about the meaning and the purpose of sainthood, but I want to avoid talking about the mechanics of canonization. How many miracles does it take, and how tall do you have to be, and all that stuff, you know. You can look that up easily, and that's less interesting. Generally, my question is saints, why do they matter? Why is it important? Or as I put it to my students, why should I care? What in the end are they? And the question becomes even more acute and closely related to us in light of the Second Vatican Council's call to universal holiness. The problem, of course, is that saints seem remote from us. They seem disconnected from our real lives. They seem like a quaint but distant element, maybe even a kind of a decorative element in the church. And they belong in the church's Hall of Fame. A little bit like the image, you know, when you visit a university or a high school, and you see on the walls the grads, the famous grads. And sometimes in older universities, you know, they don't have room for the newer ones, so you only see them from the 20s and the 30s, you know, and former prime ministers and things like that, and important people. But again, they have little to do with your own lives. You know. Their experience is not our experience. And they even seem strange to us, alien. In explicit opposition to this feeling, John Paul kind of made a reversal. I remember very well when he named, in 1997, he named Sainte Thérèse de Lisieux as Doctor of the Church. You know, and this was a young girl who was in her early 20s when she died. You know, she entered the Carmelites in her teens. And he, by making her a doctor of the church, he said explicitly that she was to be a point of reference for theologians, for catechists, for anyone teaching the faith. That blew my mind. He was telling me, this is now your point of reference. She had no publications. She had no graduate degrees. She didn't go to learned conferences. And she was a point of reference for me. This made the kind of intellectual embarrassment that we academics feel in front of saints even more explicit. You know, it made us even more aware of that and a little bit ashamed of it. This was a real kind of in-your-face challenge. So even if we would say that they are, let's say at best that they're examples for us, even that is a pit full of problems if we look at saints only as examples. Augustine wrote to a friend of his concerning the grace of Christ. And his friend was kind of flirting with the Pelagians. He was a semi-Pelagian. And Augustine wrote to him and said, the poison of your error is to situate the grace of Christ in the example of his life, rather than the gift of his presence. And if we look at saints only as examples, you know, we put them up there, we're kind of saying, whoa, how wonderful they are, but basically they have nothing to do with me. You know? And the universal call to holiness addressed that problem. So, we'll come back to this business about the presence of his gift. Let me begin with John Paul II. When he started naming saints at an incredible pace. And very quickly, his legacy was that he named in the Apostolic Constitution Divinus Perfectionis Magister, where he kind of streamlined the process of canonization. As a result of that, and he ended up naming more saints than all of his predecessors put together. That's a lot of saints. What happened then? Well, the numbers increased, and many said that the new procedures eased the process of canonization to the point where the papacy of John Paul II was a saint-making factory. I'm not in, by the way, okay? I'll take a message. Implicit in this criticism is that the net worth of sainthood was somehow devalued. Perhaps the saint was now less otherworldly. Perhaps he was less inaccessible. First, they were too strange. Now they're not strange enough. We're a very difficult crowd to please.